If only one lawmaker had called out the so-called Monsanto amendment publicly, brought it to the attention of the other lawmakers, say a senator from Montana, John Tester.
The second provision sent over from the House tells the USDA to ignore any judicial ruling regarding the planting of genetically modified crops. These provisions are giveaways, pure and simple. They deserve no place in this bill. We simply have got to do a better job on both policy and process.
Oh, I see the problem here. The other legislators didn't know about it because Senator Tester brought it up on the Senate floor in front of all of them. Perhaps if he had written it in the memo field of a Monsanto lobbyist check, people would have seen it. So anything else in this bill that nobody knew about? Anything else? Why couldn't anyone prevent these weird amendments from happening?
They said if they wanted to keep the government from shutting down, they needed to get this through. There was no taking it out.
Right, because this was a resolution that kept government funded for the next 6 months. It had to go through. Yet for some reason, none of you thought to sneak in amendments for we need. Immigration reform, infrastructure repair, Sunday bar, anything. We would have taken anything.
You know, our Congress likes to make an emergency out of everything. So they let everything go to the very last minute, and the government was going to shut down unless that budget went through. And good lobbyists never let a crisis go to waste. So what happened was, in the midst of that must-pass budget bill, Monsanto and their friends got what was known inside the Beltway as the biotech rider attached to the budget bill, what activists came to call the Monsanto Protection Act. And what that rider said was that in a lawsuit where an advocacy organization, like I said before, there's a couple legal battles going on right now over GMO sugar beets and GMO alfalfa. Back up and explain how this works. So biotech industry has to actually get USDA approval before they can plant a GMO crop, okay? There has to be certain steps that USDA goes through to ensure the safety of those crops for the environment. There's no safety requirements, by the way, for human safety, okay? The FDA does nothing to ensure the safety of GMO food. However, the USDA does have certain requirements for ensuring the safety of the environment when it comes to planting new GMO crops. Okay, so in several cases, Monsanto and other members of the biotech community have gotten stopped in court because the USDA didn't do its job. So, you know, biotech industry doesn't like that. So they essentially got an end run put into law that says the next time a court tells the USDA, you didn't make that decision properly, you needed to do a more thorough review, the USDA is required to ignore that court ruling. That's actually what this biotech rider accomplishes. In other words, you know, so the article I wrote about it, just to really flesh this out a little bit more, was called How Monsanto Teamed Up with Congress to Shred the Constitution. Okay, and if you've learned anything about how our government works, you might remember that there are three sectors of our government, right? The judicial branch, the executive branch, and the legislative branch. Separation of powers is a pretty key concept in our Constitution in order to allow for checks and balances. So in other words, if the executive branch, in this case the USDA, an agency under the executive branch, makes it the wrong decision, the judicial branch steps in and says, you did it wrong, go back to the drawing board, redo. Okay, what this new law says is USDA gets to ignore that and is required to allow the planting of these crops to go forward. I mean, that's why this was such a big deal. And it wasn't even brought out into the mainstream media right away. It wasn't until an activist group that I worked with called Food Democracy Now! Really just went crazy over this, and they do a lot of good work, and I recommend checking them out, to draw attention to this problem. They went to Washington, got over 300,000 people to sign a petition in protest, tried to get President Obama, believe it or not, to not sign the budget bill that, again, he had to sign or else the whole federal government would have shut down. Again, you know, no reason we should have even been in this crisis situation. The biotech industry had tried to get this measure passed last year, failed to do so, and then got it slipped into the budget bill, and you're right, no.
Hi, my name is Rachel Parent. I'm 14 years old, and I'm the founder of Kids Right to Know. I'm concerned about the environmental and health risks of genetically modified organisms, GMOs. I believe everyone has the right to know what they're eating. 70% of the food consumed is genetically modified, and the biotech and junk food companies don't want us to know about it.